Hello. Hello. Okay, so a few things. The energy today was like, and I mean, it makes sense because when I talk about music, sound waves and frequency as like it's a, it's a wave, right? It can be measured. The energy in ambient space, the energy between people, the energy in the atmosphere, the Schumann resonance, right, of the earth. Those things can be measured too. And when you think about there was a really high pitched tone, it would make you want to like cover your ears. That was like the quality of the energy today, because if I did not check the Schumann resonance today, but I bet to venture that if I did, it would have been pretty high. And it creates this almost like pressure in the head. But I also got the sense like there's a clearing happening in the crown chakra, which is good. So that could feel like pressure in the ears and head. And so when there's anything happening with the crown, it calls in the need for groundedness. And it was 111 when I looked at the clock. And it makes me want to talk about the earth star chakra too. So there's the soul star chakra. Soul star? I might be getting that wrong, but the earth star chakra is located below you into the earth about 12 inches. So again, it's not part of the primary, like the body's energy centers. It is of the energy body, and it's located in the earth, and it connects you. It's basically your way to envision that your body, of physical matter, your physical body is an extension of our physical planet. It's your earth body. This is your earth body. You have a spiritual body. It's the part of you that can transcend different lifetimes. It's what makes the reincarnation possible, the astral travel. And so I'm feeling a need today just to talk about that and put it out there as something that we can visualize right now in order to help ourselves feel more grounded. And then the idea with that is that the energy of the earth star chakra, our connectedness to earth herself, goes all the way down into the central sun, the inner sun, the core of the earth. Okay, so I'd like to get two animals and then just pull some cards, but I was having a lot of very interesting thoughts today. Very like thought-provoking energy. I can't get used to how the sun's trying to hit my face, and I feel like this is weird. So I'll just scoot over a little bit. Okay, I was thinking about the nature of like feeling and seeing things in a quantum way. Like, what the heck does that mean? Well, I have an experience from my past that revealed that to me. And I will say that I was, using mind-altering substances at the time, not what you'd think around anything like hallucinogenic. It was more so, this was over 10 years ago now. It was more so, a combination of things that I was just kind of, out of my mind. And what it resulted in was this ability. All I remember, what I remember the most is I couldn't really say or process anything other than everything is everything. Everything is everything is everything. And I know this is starting off to like a bad example, but this was a foundational experience for me that helped me. So anyway, it's a whole story. I'll get there. I spent about like 6 hours in the dark by myself processing what was happening to me, because I was able to like hear color and see sound. And there's, for all the words in English, there are certain things that, and they have a correlative sensory word, couch. Well, I mean, I guess I can see it, I can smell it if I want to, but, I can feel it. I would say its primary one is the tactile. Things are like that, right? You look at a tree, you can't hear how tall it is, you assess that visually. Okay, this goes without saying. But there's a lot more. I think that this goes further than individual psychic gifting, which everybody possesses in different capacities. As always, just excuse the children. They're a flutter. it goes beyond any individual's like psychic gifting, because that presents differently per person, and it always will. And of course there are like categories and whatnot, but I believe that that is always going to be 110% unique. What I'm more so talking about is like, as you open yourself up to higher frequency and your body adjusts to holding that, you know, consistently, again, with like the tuning note and like the tremors and the wavers of that, you know, and kind of like backside energy. And what I perceive as having happened in the last couple weeks, and it's an analogy that I used in earlier videos, was the slowing down in order to go in a new direction, right? If we're identifying things we don't like about our lives, we want to change them, kind of like things are opening up in perception, blah, 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 and you want to go this way instead. You can't just whip a car around and suddenly be going 60 miles. If you're going 60 miles an hour this way, you can't just be going 60 miles per hour in the complete opposite direction all at once. It requires a change, you know, potentially reversing, which is going back the same way you've come, and then a steady gaining of momentum to move at the pace that you were previously moving in the new direction. And I'm like seeing this as the momentum gaining phase. I do think that in a collective energy, we kind of turned the car around. And so part of that, I think there's just gonna be this more, like, maybe what I'm talking about is the human's ability to have a sixth sense, which they've, you know, measured on people basically in their energetic body. I mean, who knows what the actual current research on that is, but I want to bring up, so our olfactory sensory receptors, a human possesses around 6 million. A dog possesses around 300 million. Okay, so their sense of smell, their ability to receive complex smell profiles is 5 times greater than ours. And think about, like, I mean, 6 million is still pretty good, you know, we're doing pretty well with our smell. But when something intensifies, and I'm thinking about light right now as well. So if light intensifies for us, we just become intolerant of it. You know, it's too bright. At a certain point, it doesn't matter if it gets so much brighter, because you still just can't discern anything, you know, within that light. But what I've talked about this before in terms of sun gazing and the passage of time in higher realms and dimensions, or non-physical, you know, realms. Because if you go there, you can handle the high frequency because you don't have the density of the physical body to slow it down. So when you perceive it, it feels like time's passing normally, but really it's happening really quickly. And the same goes for the discernible light waves that the eye can pick up. They will, if you stare at the sun, which again, I'm not like a doctor, don't do that, whatever, I don't know. I do it. I think it's kind of a myth that it's bad for you. I think it's kind of transcendental. And my eyes are decent, so anyway, I can't medically advise on that or not. But if you do it long enough, the blindingness of it, and I would advise doing it when it gets real low on the, that is one thing. If it's like up in the sky, then maybe it'll burn your retinas. But anyway, it gives way, that blinding light gives way to a variety of colors and shapes and things, is my experience of looking at it. So my point is, I think it was an article that maybe like Psychology Today posted or something, but dogs not only, you know, when you're walking a dog and it wants to smell every few feet, like I'm personally guilty of this. I'll be like, no, come on, you've stopped and smelled everything. Like, can we just walk? Like, this walk is for me too. I want a power walk. I'm working on my butt tone, you know? I want to like, but the dog doesn't want to do that. The dog wants to smell every single thing, and I can't walk. I just have to stop and let him smell. The reason why you have to let a dog do that is because it's one of the primary ways that they get their intellectual stimulation too. Because when a dog smells something, it's not just a smell. They can tell how much time has gone by since that smell was like deposited, basically. Like if a pigeon hit it or something, hit the bush. Or, no, additionally, they can tell what the temperament of the being was. They can tell if someone's unwell. They can tell if someone's pregnant. You know, all of these different pheromonal, these hard, so the scent, right? It's like can only be perceived in one way. This is why the senses are interesting, because they are filtration methods for an unfilterable existence, right? All the energy is filtered through our ability to perceive it through our senses. For dogs, that's their primary sense. And I find that to be kind of interesting from a quantum perspective, because the quantum interplay of that experience that I mentioned before with like being able to hear color, being able to touch sound. It's like dogs can do that in their own little way, you know? A dog can actually even detect how long it's been. They kind of can anticipate when their owner is coming home if the owner has a routine schedule that the dog has been conditioned to understand, because of how much of the original scent from that day is left lingering in the home. Like, this whole apartment probably smells like me to my dog, but as I'm gone throughout the day, he can anticipate my arrival from how much of my like original scent from this morning is lingering. And I think that is pretty remarkable. So I'm picking up on a collective intensifying of the quantum interplay between what we formerly considered to be just the five senses, because like I've talked about this before, I'll be doing readings and it's clairaudience, hearing songs and stuff. You could consider it clairaudience, but you know, there are other times when I feel like I'm doing a reading and it's not something that was 11:11 on the clock. It's not something that I actually even get words or montage for, and so I have to do that type of conversion on my own in order to be able to communicate the nature of the energy that's coming through, if that makes sense. But anyway, I moved to share that today. It's funny I'm talking about clairaudience because I did not get any songs at all today whatsoever, not a single song. And that's interesting because I've been getting so many. It's been pretty musical time, but maybe it's because my crown chakra was busy clearing out. I think there was something else I wanted to say, but I don't remember it. And it will come back to me if it's meant to. So again, I'm going to do the two animals and then just some traditional tarot, and I'm going to try to keep it under 30 minutes. What else did I want to talk about? I had a lot of stuff actually, but that's okay. Again, it will come back if it's meant to. Okay. Okay, we have Hawk Spirit and Swan Spirit, 5 and 6. Together they are 11. Hawk Spirit isn't 5, it's 32. Hawk Spirit says, let spirit be your guide. Swan Spirit says, time for a deep dive. I like this a lot because they both are birds, right? They both have wings. They do very different things. Swans have a long neck. They're both oriented the same way. We see them facing this way. And the swan, you know, it can fish. I mean, I'm pretty sure, right? They stick their long necks in and they get a fish. Like a goose would. The hawks have an aerial view. They still dive down. They take a deep dive, a hawk, you know, because they're so incredibly adept at sighting prey from above and then going for it. So let's see what they have to offer us here. Flying high above the landscape, the hawk sees both the big picture and the small details, observes the rain and the pond as well as the cloud, and doesn't miss anything. When Hawk Spirit arrives, you are called to pay close attention to messages from Spirit that can appear anywhere in form. I'm remembering something now, which is that it wasn't today, it was several days ago, potentially last week. What day is it? It's Thursday. Yeah, it was last week, I guess. No, it wasn't. It doesn't matter. There was a hawk above me. There's some work being done nearby my place of employment, and the hawk was circling and it was just screeching. It almost sounded like a gull, and I was like, why is there a seagull out here? There was not a seagull, it was a hawk, and I'm pretty sure he was upset that he was being displaced while some construction-y thing happened. That's what it seemed like was happening, is that the hawk was displeased and he was doing this screech. Listen to your intuition and keep your eyes open for synchronicities, the meaningful coincidences. Hawk Spirit asks you not to dismiss the signs that Spirit is sending to guide you. Lately, have you been hearing the same word or song or coming across the same symbol here, there, and in the strangest places? Perhaps you hear a song on the radio with just the right lyric pertaining to your query, or you begin to notice uncanny billboards, license plates, or other places where repetitive numbers or words show up for you to notice. Pay attention to the animals that appear for you and connect with their symbolism. Spirit wants to communicate and reaches out again and again. When Hawk Spirit appears, it is a sign to listen. Yeah, I actually didn't think that was going to be so heavily based around synchronicities, and that's funny, because I'm always talking about synchronicities, but there's a protection message here, which I'm finding it important to share because of what I think I'm going to read this first, and then I'll say what I'm going to say. Are you noticing red flags, perhaps saying to yourself, oh, what pretty flags, and giving them no more thought? Hawk Spirit has arrived to tell you to stop and listen to the messages from Spirit. Take the time to observe the patterns you are seeing, and do not dismiss your intuition, even if the messages you receive are not supported by evidence in the physical world. If it feels illogical to listen anyway. Sometimes you might want certain signs and messages to mean what you want them to mean, interpreting through the lens of wishful thinking, a projection of your desire to see things a certain way. Of course, when you do that, you rarely find yourself where you want to be. Take heart, Spirit loves you so much and does not want you to get hurt, but to align with Spirit's plan for your highest good. Listen and follow the signs and check your motives when you are being selective with your hearing. Yeah, I wanted to say this the other day and I forgot to, but the thing about communicating, having an intimate dialogue with the universe at all times is not about ever going overboard and being like, show me again, show me now, show me, because that's not how it works. You need to be able to trust that when you see something uncanny, or when you have a synchronistic moment, that it's like right place, right time. One could argue that if you're living in alignment, then your whole life is right place, right time, because you're constantly, catalyzing the energy around you to be a reflection in the holographic prism of the self nature, right? In the way that there is a projection, of your own inner state in the world around you. And I don't mean just like, so even though you're heard and witnessed and seen by the universe, a person who's going around saying like, send me a sign if this is meant to happen, they'll intentionally not show you anything at all, because that's not how it works. You have to be, there's a part of that amazing, synchronistic, there's no coincidences, magic that you only perceive as being outside of you, inside of you, and it's your intuition, and it helps you make those decisions with authority so that you don't need to look for a sign. And it's talking about being less, logical and stuff. And a lot of this has to do with the way the world is today right now, and like some of the paradigm shifts that I think are happening incredibly painfully and slowly at the very least. But like, okay, so for instance, maybe I should just sit back here. The sun will go down soon, and I like it. I didn't get enough sun today. In the 20 years that passed from 2002 until 2022, the average salary increased by around 27%, but the cost of a home increased by 148%. And a lot of people, it's almost challenging when people are educated and understand how things work, because there's always going to be something that it's like, well, this and that, and like, I'm thinking about generational differences, whereas to come up as a human at this time, I feel like millennials are very, my unique, like I'm a younger millennial. Millennial covers a certain, span. Everybody knows that. I don't have to explain that. But like, uniquely positioned to have known a world and a childhood without technology, but then to be fresh enough in all of this stuff that's happening right now, particularly in America, where it's just like, this is not right or sustainable or fair. That's why so many people are focused on working smarter, not harder. That's why like the majority of our generation just wants to give up and pursue their hobbies and live on their phone / be a, successful travel vlogger and just get paid via sponsorships. And it's fairly anti-establishment, not for no reason. I think that How did I get on this? Okay, so because the energy is unseen, if somebody has had enough time, like years/decades under their belt of navigating the world in a strictly logical, analytical way, they could be very good at doing that. But it could still not have yielded what they wanted it to yield, because that's not the truth of the world. There's always things at play that are telling us like what to do in some capacity. And I talked about that a little bit with the incarnational matrix. I mean, this also speaks to the whole quote that I like from Albert Einstein of like, in order to find a solution, you cannot look at the problem. You have to go in a different direction to find the solution. The solution's not over there with the problem. It's probably in the opposite direction because of the way that things work. So when people talk about like quantum jumping or timeline shifting, it takes me back to the analogy I've used before about eternity being a guitar chord that's just been strummed by God and it's hanging out in the air forever. Those, the different harmonies, the different notes that create a chord, they're there. That's saying the other realities that you could be living in, the other worlds that you could be living in, they're already there. It's just that your vibration, the frequency that you exist in, that you're dialed into, again with the reticular activation system. Oh, I talked about this in a video that I didn't end up posting and will not end up posting, so I'll talk about it again. It's right, we all know about that selective retention around actually being able to notice the world around you, so that if you were to go into, if you're going to buy a car, then you see the car everywhere. And what that tells us is that we don't, and maybe you could say, well, it's a coincidence, it started appearing everywhere, but there's research that goes to show that has a lot more to do with how perceptive we are to things if we, are keyed into them. It basically says that there is no way, to accept everything around you all at once. We're not like big enough beings. We're not perceptive enough to perceive everything all the time. We're animals. We get distracted. And what I experience as being like somebody who's fairly spiritual and keyed into my own body's energy, and therefore the energy around me, and therefore other people's energy, and therefore the energy of the planet, it never stops, right? There's just levels to acclimation to different things as I, grow and evolve and learn things. And anybody who's on, the spiritual awakening journey knows that it's never really ever done. Makes me think about the word karma again, meaning being Sanskrit for action, right? You can close karmic loops, karmic cycles, a sequence of events. You can put an end to a certain kind of thing happening to you because you close out the karmic root of it. But we'll always generate more karma, good or bad. Anyway, I'm thinking about the fact that like when I wasn't as, when I was younger and I wasn't as intentional about, I hadn't fully converted my brain over, my attention, my awareness, my priorities over to what I am now. I was a lot more self-centered for sure, but also just not as aware. Like if I go into any given scenario, I'm assessing the biggest radius possible, like at all times. Like I'm not just tunnel vision into a space. I mean, I appear that way. Don't get me wrong. I appear very tunnel vision if I'm like out in public or doing something, but you can be sure that I know the approximate feel and location of all the people around me. And, my point is that as you like become more open with your own body's energy, then you'll probably naturally have a pulse on greater spaces more easily. It's not like I'm like, who's over there? No, it's not like that. It happens automatically because it matters to me, because I'm not like, oh, I have to, put my shields up and it's like, but on the other side of that, it's not like I'm just like sprinkles for you and blessings for everybody. There's just a need to know what's happening around you and how it feels, so that you can simply navigate as a person would. And sometimes it does have to do with like shield, or I've talked about elemental energies before. Like I work with the elemental energies as like combative measure for imbalanced energy in other people and in spaces. So if people were arguing and I'm getting like, it's like a fire, there's like a heightened, like I'll bring water. I'll imagine a beautiful waterfall coming down from heaven and just put it out, you know, putting it out. And you can be like, oh, that's just in your head. But, you know, you'd be shocked to know and see what actually happens in front of me if I do something like that. And no one has to know, right? And I would never, you only ever do things for the highest good. This is also how you can align with like what's meant for you and how you know you're living in integrity, because if I'm deeply uncomfortable by something that's happening around me and I fix it for, you know, that person's benefit, it's so I too can be comfortable. But this is how we get into, right? Because in a perfect utopia, everybody can be themselves and everybody's comfortable around each other. But we live in a world right now where if you have one person who's really comfortable with themselves, they tend to make other people uncomfortable because, you know, the light illuminates, you know, shadows again. So I want to finish my thought about the timelines and the different vibrations of the chords, right? Because that doesn't, a quantum jump would refer to quickly, you know, I mean, quantum jumps can happen over a certain period of time, but relatively quickly being able to fully inhabit and sustain a higher vibration so that the world around you and your own reality is more consistently reflecting the type of life you want to live, you know? And that's the beautiful part about that is that, it's up to you. It's up to you. And so it would be like, okay, well, what note of the chord do I want to land on? That's the process of seeing, feeling, thinking, knowing, embodying the way it's going to look, the way it's going to feel. That's how you see onto the chord. You get to pick, and then that's how you project the timeline. And then as you continue to, you know, live your days, the amount of people that pertain to the old world or the lower frequency, the amount of irritating instances, the amount of inconveniences, the amount of, you know, shit that we don't have control over, that plagues you, will start to diminish because you're more fully allowing yourself to reside in a frequency that fuels the ability to, you know, I'm talking about momentum with the car again, right? So during the transition from one frequency to another, right, then things can appear to kind of crumble or go really wrong. And that's where the term dark night of the soul comes in. Dark night of the soul. I don't know. I think it was Jim Carrey or somebody who said something like depression or like these dark low lows. It's your body, it's your life screaming at you that you need some type of change, really. So anyway, with the timelines, like, just to conclude that thought before I get into Swan Spirit and go into the cards, this is going to be longer than 30 minutes. I'm thinking about karmic loops again too, because you can want a new life and put it out there and the universe can be like, great, we'll help. We're going to help you. And then you go about your life and something really inconvenient happens and immediately you're right back in that like low vibrational, and again, I'm thinking of the scale with the emotions, you know, you're easily triggered. Healed people are a lot less reactive. People who can hold a lot of energy are a lot less reactive to it because they feel and see both sides of things much more easily. They're much more empathetic, empathetic, and compassionate because you're easily kind of feeling multiple chords and tones within somebody else's energy that might compel them to do certain things, and therefore understanding, you know, more about that person than they even know about themselves. Not from like the psychoanalytical level of like, why are you like that? But more so like, I have the choice to react. I have every choice under the sun about how I react right now. And like, you never forget that if you are always feeling in your body. This gets back into the quantum sensory interplay. If you can feel why something's happening and you don't have to be like, why might they be doing that? Then it's a lot, you know, then because the way we act is based off of how we feel inside of ourselves. So if you're feeling other people then you can't not know, you can't not know what's going on. It makes more sense. I hope that makes sense. That was a little convoluted, but what I'm trying to say is that it's almost like there's little tests. If you're trying to exit a certain reality and a way of living life, move into a new life, you want to make a quantum jump into a higher, I've been doing this all the time. I make little quantum jumps. Like I'm very good at manifestation, but it doesn't mean I'm not human. It doesn't mean that the world's not physical 3D. It doesn't mean that I don't get caught up in my own dramas, my own ego dramas all the time, every day. I'm constantly having to work through these things, which is why I like talking about it. But it's like the universe being like, this time are you going to, and I'm thinking about like ex-boyfriends, right? You can have the same type of person who's not good for you, who comes back around, and it's the universe being like, are you gonna do that again? Like this, And I have, years, because I was, and that would pertain to like karmic loop. I was closing out a karmic loop. I couldn't do it. I kept choosing this kind of person who was really unhealthy for me. Like unsafe for me. So then my whole, the spin of that wheel, that go around, that relationship, same type of stuff, low vibrational stuff. I think that's important to say, because I feel like sometimes we can think that we're putting a lot of work into our own healing and our ability to change our world, and then something shitty happens and we're like, ugh, I thought I was free of this. I'm not doing this anymore. I want to move away from this. That reaction is why it's still here. That reaction is why it's still here. I mean, of course you can feel that way, and that's valid, but at the same time, it's like, I know better, and so I do better now, That's what it's all about. And being like, what if I didn't, just like slide in that absolutely crushing remark that would win this argument? What if I didn't do that because I know better, and because I have more like integrity and self-respect, because I recognize this human as a mirror of myself. I recognize the reason why I'm even in front of this person as evidence to the fact that there's something within me that's being reflected and that I need to heal. That's why I'm being faced with this challenge. I have another. Hey, sweetness. Hey, sweetness. Hi. I got distracted. My mind is completely empty now. I did have a whole lot of other, it'll come back around if it's meant to, okay? So, swan spirit. With their graceful long necks, swans are able to reach into the depths. When swan spirit arrives, you are called to take a deep dive beyond what is easily available on the surface. You may think you know what is best for you now, but take the plunge into the depths of your awareness, for there is knowledge you are not aware of, and great treasures to discover. Deeper understanding awaits you, and a perspective that comes from greater self-knowledge is what you need right now to better understand a situation or relationship. As you come to know yourself more intimately, so too will you come to know better others. I said that earlier. So Swan Spirit asks you to go beyond the surface of what is happening between you and others and resist the temptation to judge by superficial appearances. Know there is much deeper potential for loving connections, forgiveness, and mutual understanding. Choose to dive deep into your why. Ask the deeper questions of yourself as you are led by the grace of Swan Spirit. Okay, so that's bringing me back to the idea of red flags, right? Sometimes we experience things and we're like, this isn't indicative of bad things that I've encountered in the past. And we ignore it and we move that way anyway. And that goes into what I was saying about like almost like abusing the relationship with the universe and its magic to be able to show you signs, because the universe is not an enabler. It's not going to be like, here you go, here are all the signs. It's not even capable of doing that, because if you think about numbers on the clock, right? Like consistently, so at so many points during like major awakening times of my life, I would wake up, like I've had chapters of all different kinds of numbers, right? Sometimes we fall in with numbers and it's like, why am I seeing 555 everywhere? Every day I catch it both times, and it's just like randomly You see, you're not even like, oh, it's almost that time, I'm going to check it out. And you look at the clock. It's not like that. I remember one time where every single night, if I got up or if I was already up or if I was wherever what was happening, it was always 333. And like, I would know. It got to a point where if I had to get up in the night and I would like walk to my bathroom past my stove and like, I was like, I don't even want to look. And then I'd look and it would be 333. I'd be like, are you kidding me? It's crazy how those things happen. The universe, though, isn't even able of just tossing them out everywhere because there's, 12 hours in between the two 333s. It can only be done at certain points in the day, which kind of brings me to my next point about if I'm in my life right now and I'm like, person, situation, family, like the nature, the quality of my life and everything in it, if that's a reflection of me, I think a lot of the times we look at certain things and we consider them as like, oh, I manifested this relationship and it's amazing and I love them and whatever. But we fail to recognize how quickly manifestation actually happens. Oh, this is a complicated one to unfurl. I'm going to do it. I'm going to go for it. Okay, so thinking about density and how I've said before that like if you were to be in this mental thought experiment where you got taken out of your body and you were in this blank space, like the sunken place from Get Out or like the Janet's void from The Good Place, and there was nothingness and things would just appear if you thought about them, but just as easily you understood that you could just get rid of them. That's not how this is. It's just that there's already so much stuff here and we've got Earth, this is a collective manifestation. And so if I go outside my house right now and I just walk down the street and I'm seeing things, and it's not just that my current life and the things and people in it are what I've manifested. It's that if I go outside and there's somebody crossing the street and there's a car coming, all of that is part of my manifestation too, which is why the world is so chaotic, because everybody's doing it and nobody sees the same thing. Nobody sees out of the same eyes as the person next to you. So you'd be like, well, I don't even know that person. Why are we experiencing? It's like, because that's just one blip of the day. So these different, like, even though it takes a long time for matter to pass through the density, which is in order to actually change something here on Earth, which is why you have to sustain certain thoughts or desires or energies from within in order for them to finally kind of push through the surface in this earthly garden. The world still moves quickly, right? The world still moves quickly in pace. It's just that the energy moves through the density just as quickly as it does when there's no density. And as you expand your personal energy, the effort that it takes to do that or sustain that diminishes because it's natural. It will be happening naturally. So I want to read the protection message for Swan Spirit too. And I don't think I explained that as well as I could have, so I'm a little disappointed in myself, but his panting is distracting. That's just an excuse. That's just an excuse. Go on up. Don't talk to yourself. Wait, what? Don't talk yourself into diving deep into something just because you see the potential of things instead of what they really are now. The necessary work and patience involved may not be the best use of your energy. Have you seen the potential in someone and think that if you love them and support them, they will become the person who knows you love them beyond all others? Have you stepped into an opportunity that you know feels too good to be true and might not turn out the way you hope? Now is not a time for selective, limited perception that can lead to misjudgment. Instead, this is a time for going deep and being honest about what you find as you explore the depths. Have no fear, for whatever you find below will help you love and understand yourself and others and make better choices. Can you sense. Swan spirit, calling you to dive deep and resurface to choose again. Yeah, I mean, I think it just goes back to the big reassessment that we've been doing throughout the past few weeks and months about what's really meant for us or not. Gonna roll up my sleeves here. Parrot spirit has come out as well. I mean, I just cut the deck, but watch your words. Yeah, I mean, this is making me think about what I talked about where, like, we can not like the things that are happening around us, but we need to be able to. And I know that, like, a good argument for this would be like, well, I didn't bring this upon me. You can't tell me I manifested that or that's my karma, blah, blah, blah. No. I mean, kind of, maybe, who knows? You know, I like to detangle each situation individually because it's very hard to talk about things in generalizations when it comes to this stuff, because nothing's really ever like occurring in a vacuum. There's just so much to it. If you have a situation you want to ask about, send me an email. I would love to, I don't know, help you talk about it or figure it out or something. I don't know. It's still on you to choose how you behave. It's still on you to choose how you behave. And then as soon as you do something, you can't take it back. And that could be like, I'm going to do this. I'll never be able to take that back. It could mean a lot or it could mean a little, you know, the implications of that rule in life. When you do something, you can't take it back. So I think it's important to continue focusing on like the healing and the expanding of energy, because then you get to a place where you don't have to, you know, watch your words as much because you trust your intuition. Like sometimes I just say something to somebody and I'm like, I had no prior planning for that thought to come out. It was truly like channel, really, is how it feels. Because when I'm channeling, I don't necessarily think a whole lot about what I'm saying, which is why I can do a reading like this and then forget what I said and like watch it back later and be like, good point. You know, because I work with my guides and they help me. Of course I'm aware of what I'm saying and I pick my own words, but that's also why I'm like, you know, sometimes like, I don't even know what that means. Do I? Maybe I do. I called upon like my angels and guides. I was in this class one time. Food chemistry. Sometimes we did fun experiments and ended up making ice cream and stuff, but I didn't like it. It wasn't for me, you know? And it got to a point where I had to go to the teacher and be like, listen, I have more important things going on and I would like it if you can give me the lowest possible passing grade. I'm okay with that, but I just can't come anymore. This is like such a waste of time. It was requirements, you know, and I wouldn't have said that if there was so much time left, because I'm not trying to like, you know, take advantage of the system, but I was like, I feel like that's fair. I feel like I'm on track to get maybe a better grade than that, but she was like, okay, I get it. I get where you're coming from. My point is, I was getting by in that class because I'd be taking an exam and I'd just be like, it'd be like multiple choice. I'd be like, give me a letter, you know, and I couldn't even process the questions because it's kind of just outside of my general realm of intelligence, and I didn't have the bandwidth to take on food chemistry. I haven't looked at those models of like the way that you, like back in elementary science, the way you had to draw. Anyway, that it was this college course, and the only way I even ended up doing mildly okay, it was like channeling answers. I never even knew any of it. Yay, we have the star out already. I'm really liking the way that things are going in the collective energy. I would say that there's an intensity, and what I perceive as happening in the world in the collective energies right now, and why everything, like on the grander scale, it's like, oh, everything's breaking, everything's so polarized. It's because a lot of people are switching timelines, and it's creating, and by that I just mean opening up to their own healing. And even for people who don't speak in this spiritual way or like have this type of vocabulary for those types of things, they can still be making changes that are on an energetic level changing their energy so that they are switching timelines. And what that means is that your life is not going to look, feel, smell, taste, anything the way that it used to, even if the same people are in it, because your perception around it, everything has changed. Okay. We're not strangers to these cards. However, this is a unique combination as of late. We have the Emperor, the Moon, and the Five of Swords. And the Five of Swords, not to mention the star, she came out first. So the Five of Swords is I kind of see it as like, check yourself a little bit, because there's different, the energy I get with this card is kind of like, it's almost like, I thought I did the right, like I'm needing to revise and rethink about the way that it's that funny feeling. It's a funny feeling that you get. The card, let me back up. The feeling energetically associated with this card for me is the feeling that I would get if I thought something was like really funny or really good, but then I look around and everybody's just like really upset and like I didn't read the room. It's that like, I don't get it, and there's this dejectedness and it makes you feel like something's wrong. And in this card, it's because like there's a selfishness or an entitlement, but also like he's not I almost see it too as like as being this, what I was talking about before in the beginning of the reading, with like, if you've only ever navigated the world with the logical and the analytical mind, he's trying to riddle something out that can't be riddled through. He's trying to apply his same old tricks and tactics to something that requires something incredibly new. But because of the other cards that have come out, which I will mention, right? Minor, major, 3 against 1. It's all good. I think that these two, this is gorgeous. Like I want to make a painting that is just these 3, characters going on right here. Because what I see as happening is like that masculine, like the Emperor energy. There's been an ability to use the intuition, If there's not now, then that's what we're moving into. But in the collective energies, I do see it as being like this overhaul that was needed, that was taken, that started to happen. The ability to latch onto something, a wish, an idea, a new vision, a new timeline, and start to feel and understand that getting to that, it's not impossible. It's not magic. It requires work. It requires a different kind of work. It requires this inner work. It doesn't require the kind of work that, we've been used to achieve other things, which, again, this restructuring. So I like this. I think this is truly phenomenal, and it's why it feels good, like when you apply yourself to the right kind of work, then it feels good. Again, it's like the thing about stagnation. The stagnation doesn't actually feel good. We tell ourselves that we just need to rest and rest and rest, but if you do that forever, maybe you'll get bored, maybe you'll get antsy. The human body is meant to experience dynamism in every way. The mind is, the soul is, the body is dynamism. And so it's not about like, oh, do what you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Sure, I love that and that's great. Do that. But at the same time, it's like you can love working and it can still be work, but it's just a way to express what you can do as a human. Wheel of Fortune's at the bottom. Just give her a little moment to shine. The wheel is turning. We're kind of moving through all of this, and I would say that we're doing it, I can't speak for anybody, but I just like feel, I don't know. 2 of Pentacles. I'm dialed into like just a lot of optimism and hope today and throughout the week. It just feels like a good time to be able to go to the inner world and not really, it's not like bucking off the whole everything that's happening around you. It's just being able to be a part of that and know where your values lie and know how you see things and know what's real to you and not need that like external validation. Let the universe continue to show you why you're right, to trust your heart and your own intuition, the universe will always show you that. That's why people like myself or anybody, who's on this kind of journey is the way they are, because eventually all the evidence that supports you functioning in union and harmony with your own spirit and like the true essence of how we are designed as humans, you can't go back if you wanted to. Look at this. Ace of Pentacles, Ten of Cups, Knight of Cups. We got the Two of Pentacles before when I was shuffling, okay? So let me break this down. We have the Hanged Man, too. Whew. I'm going to get top of the deck and bottom of the deck. Nine of Cups, Ten of Cups. What's at the top? Judgment. It's all good. Baby. As Biggie Smalls once said. Okay. It's actually quite hard for me to see. I'm inclined to turn a little lamp on or something, but I'm going to struggle through because I'm stubborn. No, I'm just kidding. I do want to put a light on. Okay. All right, so what I like about what we have here in the 7 cards that just came out is that instead of having the dominant be the major arcana and having one minor arcana, I have only one major arcana in the Hanged Man. Everything else is minor. So I like that because it is setting the stage for the reading, which is what I just talked about with like this success and having been able to do some of the more challenging, tricky, blindly led, right? Learning to trust the intuition is the battle between the ego and the head and the heart and all these different things, There isn't any intuition to have already been connected to lead you through connecting to the intuition because you haven't forged the connection yet. So it takes a lot of strength. And that's what I'm seeing us as having, done. And if I'm not speaking to somebody who's, I always think how it's interesting because I know that there's, whatever, I'm not going to go there right now, but this could simply mean new levels of the intuition that you already, used and trusted, or reawakening or reforging, reopening. As I've said before, people can go through like different spiritual transits in their lives and then be like, I'm not going to do that anymore. And it's not necessarily they're like, nah, because of what I just said, right? Once you get to that point, it's very hard to not be like that. But, some of the things that can do that to a person would be trauma or like outside influences or just all sorts of things can take you out of your mind, body, spirit type of connected way and kind of trigger you back into more like egotistical, ego-led states of navigating the world, or the purely logical. By the way, I don't think anybody's intuition is ever turned off. I don't really think that. I think it's more about what's dominantly presenting or guiding. So there's a lot of love here. Emotional fulfillment. And like offerings around that, being able to extend and share love to another, to ourselves. And it's cups. Oh, I'm sorry. I totally discounted judgment when I said that thing about the one major arcana. But honestly, judgment, it comes out almost every day that I pull cards. It really does. What I've been talking about with like the feeling I'm getting off of this reading is that it's just like, we're passing the test of divine judgment. You can't not pass because it'll just come back around and a repetitive loop, right? You can't not pass. But this is why this is a really big time right now, why I've been talking about the summer of 2023. It's a bigger type of thing that we're able to end because of all the stuff, the cycles, the astrology, the divine timing of it all, right? Divine timing, divine judgment. I'm getting the word deliverance too. Being delivered out of things. Deliverance? I think that's biblical in some way. Deliverance. Yeah, so there's the cups, there's the judgment. And then there's the pentacles, right? And this can mean indecision or, potentially being miserly around not being able to let go in order to welcome the new. But my biggest read off of this, which is a little bit of a out of bounds interpretation, I'm simply building off of the energy that I spoke on in my past, most recently posted 2 readings, because I was talking about 3, right? This is 3 of Pentacles. And what is 3 of Pentacles? It's about collaboration. It finally depicts, the Pentacles cards as being multiple people, because it's the next level. You don't just have one, you don't just have 2 in a choice, a decision. You have the ability to now move different things around and collaborate with the other people in your life. That's what it speaks to, is making connections and being able to work with others. But also what I was saying about building, right? 1, 2, 3. It's a triangle. It's stable. It can be used in, like, look at bridges, look at all sorts of things have triangles in them. So I like this because I see us as being able to build on every level now with a lot more resistance than the resistance that we have been perceiving because of yeah, I mean, it's beautiful. And again, like, there's 3 cards here. There's 3 energy within this. Give me a clarifier card for the Knight of Cups, the 10 of Cups, and the 9 of Cups. I mean, it really doesn't need one, but I want to see what comes out. The 9 of Pentacles. Yeah, I mean, I think that things are just going to keep getting better and better as long as we can continue to allow the changes that are happening to really happen. And, look for the signs, but don't rely on them. Look for the red flags and don't discount them. There's a lot of really, really amazing things happening in a lot of people's lives right now. But unfortunately, there's a lot of people's lives who are absolutely, like, completely, entirely falling apart. And when that happens, if you don't have, I think, faith or the ability to rely on something, like what I was talking about with Psalm 28, when David says, if I don't have you, what do I have, right? Because if everything falls apart, then you need something to fall back on. But when you have something within your own faith and spiritual understanding of your own energy and the way that the world works, right? Then you'll never be without, even if you go through times of serious lack and challenge, you'll never be without, because that's the wellspring from which forth everything else comes, new idea, the ability, even the strength to be able to do anything at all. So, there are a lot of reasons. There's so much to look forward to right now in life. There's so much good that's happening, but because these extremes, right? I'm seeing, dough, when people are making bread dough, the way it pulls apart, we're being stretched really thin. And all we can do, like, when I get really, I think one of the reasons why a lot of people don't want to do the spiritual stuff, they don't even want to consider things, they don't want to think about conspiracy theories or anything, which I'm not, that the whole thing is a separate thing. I'm not saying all conspiracy theories are true, because they're obviously not, but not all of them are untrue. I saw a funny video. It was a stand-up comedian, and he's like, you're telling me that you don't believe in any conspiracy theories? How can you not believe in any? I think a lot of people don't want to do this because then you have to consider all of, like, how bad things actually are. And it's, like, gross and painful and hard. But in order to combat that, you have to have strengthened the will and the ability and the desire to know that it has no, right? The love always wins. It's cheesy, but it's true. It's cheesy, but it's true. And what I talked about before with the vibrations of the emotion too, right? Like, one person vibrating high has so much more power to do things and move energy and create things, solutions, than people who are stuck or, choosing poorly repeatedly. And more people are realizing that. And I think that the world will begin to, crystallize these changed realities where those are the types of people that you would encounter. You're going to stop encountering the kinds of people that drag you down because of how you're walking outside and seeing your whole world, right? Like a house of cards reflecting what it is you feel and have been able to sustain. And what I wanted to say is, all you can do instead of despair, a lot of people, and I know tons of people like this, they think it's like I don't think they think this consciously, but it's like sitting around and being like, oh, isn't that tragic? Isn't that so sad? Isn't that disturbing? Oh, it's so it's like that's doing our part, sitting around and just giving space for how fucked up things are. I don't really like that. And I'm not saying that they're not tragic, but I'm saying, like, why are we now being like, yes, it's so unfortunate. Like, and I get it. That'll never stop. That's just something that people do. If you do it too much, though, it's just like feeding into the chaos porn of the media monster machine. It's like, I don't give a fuck today. Like, not every day do I need to know what's going on outside of my own bubble. That's not selfish. That's just informed about the fact that when I live my life and do right by me and try to become the best human that I can, everything else will benefit. I don't mean like my information is going to reach Antarctica. That was a weird example because I have a lot to say about Antarctica right now, but that's not what I mean. I just mean that it will ripple out, the butterfly effect. The things that you do have had unknown consequences that you will never know of. There are things that you did when you were 7 that had serious unknown consequences that you'll never know of. And I don't mean like you messed up something. No, they could be really good consequences. They could be really good things that you were responsible for, but you never even knew about it because all you did was, pick up a thing and move it out of the way. But had you not done that, then this would have happened, right? This goes into the fact that it doesn't really matter, all these implications of doing good or doing not. And this makes me think of the show The Good Place, which I would recommend to anybody because, for me, I have such a sensitive threshold for like violent and intense content. I can watch it, I just have to be very selective. And I like The Good Place because it's kind of inconsequential, silly, like almost childlike humor, but it's actually really well written from a philosophical perspective, really well written. And Kristen Bell's character is like, I tried being good. It didn't do anything for me, and after she dies, she realizes that that's not what it's about, because we're part of a whole. And when you're selfish and you think that what you have to do benefits you first and foremost, then of course that's not altruistically enough aligned with the truth of humanity and what it means to be a part of a collective. And I'm not saying you have to be like, hey, how you doing, bud? Like to everybody that ever passes you by. It's nonverbal. It's implicit. It's how you carry yourself. It's how you feel about yourself and therefore the people around you. So I don't understand how my readings are always over an hour. And there's nothing wrong with it, but I just hate it when I should just stop saying it. I should stop saying this one's going to be quick. I genuinely do feel that way though before I start going. So anyway, excuse me. I do want to get a clarifier for the Hanged Man card because I spoke to the cups. I spoke to the pentacles. Talk to me about the Hanged Man and please show me, is it because the greater vantage point, like what I'm getting is like perhaps the greater vantage point has been able, even though it's hard, right, to stay in that, yeah, we'll see what those cards are in a sec, but I'm thinking it's hard to stay in this suspended place. I've talked about this before. That's uncomfortable. But it's also uncomfortable to be outside of your comfort zone. That's like in the name, comfort zone. Outside of it, uncomfortable, not in the comfort anymore. So what I'm intuitively getting is that it would be about keeping ourselves in a place of discomfort outside of what we have known in order to navigate the world, you know, in this deeper, more evolved way. Again, with this whole transit being about stability on every level, stability that can be sustained physically and literally and emotionally. Yeah, these cards, I said, is it about, well, maybe I didn't get this out, but what I was going to ask the reading is it about the fact that we still need to take this bigger perspective, or is it about the fact that we've successfully done this enough in order to, Nine of Pentacles, Nine of Cups, Ten of Cups, Knight of Cups, right? What I said before. Are we actually passing divine judgment? Not that the universe quizzes you, right? It's all about what you pick. Sometimes we feel like we're being punished. It's all about what you pick. What I have in response to that fell out is Strength and the Queen of Wands. So yeah, I mean, it is like a victorious energy, and it has to do with inner strength. It has to do about, you know, taming the ego, partnering with the intuition, understanding that there's a healthy sense of like confidence and self-esteem that is not egotistical. It's fair and balanced, and it's self-love. It's unconditional self-love, which is very hard to do. I think sometimes we think that even if you don't love yourself, you can love others. I kind of don't think that's true. I think your love for other people will always be conditional unless you can love yourself. And I'm not a parent and I don't have children, but I think that people would say like that it changed when they had kids, right? People love their children, I think, in a way that they've never experienced love before, because it shows them unconditional love for the first time in many cases. But what do I know? Because I am not a parent. I suspect. I have unconditional love for my dog. I absent-mindedly packed all the cards away, okay? So they're all back in here so we could get a repeat. And all I'm looking for is energy that we can continue to release at this time. What are we focusing on releasing at this time? And then energy to embrace. That's it. And then I'll stop. What are we still working on releasing right now? What are we still working on releasing right now? There it is. And now what can we embrace to help us right now? I'm fucking kidding. It's judgment. Are we surprised? Guess what came out with it though? Ten of Swords. Oh, I'm sorry. No, the Six of Swords. Okay. So, oh. Wait. I said release first and embrace second. This came out first. This is the release. This is the embrace. Okay, I got it. I don't really even think I have to say anything at all. What we're releasing is the idea that this thing, you know, the notion of pushing outside our comfort zones, having enough faith to sustain a new journey, he's going somewhere else. That's what this is, the Six of Swords. Recognizing that something isn't for you and being able to go somewhere else. That could be the act of staying within the comfort zone, or it could actually be, I mean, this is one and the same. Going outside of your comfort zone in one way or another involves doing things differently. And that can be micro, it can be macro. It can be actually getting rid of stuff and people and habits and things and whatever. Or it can be purely internal, but only for so long, right? Because as soon as something is internalized, and it affects the way that you conduct yourself. So yeah, I mean, I'm also just getting that it's the release of the stalemate. I think that we've understood that just because something is outside of our comfort zone, it doesn't mean it's not for us, right? Whereas when you're operating only on the logic and you don't have the ability to feel into the intuitive truth of things, makes me think about staring at the sun again, or like getting as good at smelling as a dog is, right? Being able to split something that's dense into multiple light beams, you know, a smell not just being a olfactory experience, but like a timeline or an index of all the creatures who have pissed on this bush. It's about sustaining something that we thought was uncomfortable because we're powerful enough to hold it and expand ourselves, right? Because your comfort zone, it doesn't go away. I'm seeing it as like a lawn chair. You can go sit down in it anytime you want, but now you can also go over there. It's called expansion. It's called expansion. That's what the universe is asking us to do. And we're doing it. So that's awesome. Super awesome. Yeah. Releasing the fact that that's no longer, I'll do bottom of the deck and top of the deck. No, I'll cut the deck to get clarity on the Hanged Man. Yeah. We're moving forward. We're moving forward instead of being suspended. And I said this the other day with the Knight of Swords. We're just doing it, right? He's just the OG knight. His task is simple. He goes into battle. There's not typically just one knight fighting another army. There's, it's copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. They're all unique, beautiful individuals. But my point is, you need a lot of them because they go, and they can move the masses. And it's kind of like we're taking all this stuff. Okay, wait, I want to look at it. All of this stuff that's been dense, and a lot for us to go through. And we don't have to be in the Hanged Man position as much as we did before, because the Hanged Man also speaks to higher perspective, being able to go up and kind of assess things, almost like dissociatively, to assess, right? And then kind of come back into our bodies and make decisions. The Knight of Swords is saying that we've done that enough. There's been enough confusion in order for there to kind of come now an internal resolution that helps us be able to move forward with more momentum. And so the bottom of the deck and the top of the deck, Ace of Pentacles, a new beginning, and kind of just being, I feel, I talked about this with the tower a while ago. It was a couple weeks ago now, around like, there are phases to towers crumbling. Sometimes, it takes a while for the air to clear, for you to even be able to see through the, the smoke and the dust and the debris. And that is what's going on right now. So let Spirit be your guide. Nice. Okay. I don't know. I feel like I want to keep going, but I'm not going to. I'm going to end the reading here. Thank you very much, honestly. This was a different type of one, and I feel good about it. Every day is different. I don't know why I say that. I know I'm all over the place, but I really genuinely like the idea that somebody would want to watch for as long as I talk for. And I hope that you do that not because my dog's cute, but because what I say helps you. That's my greatest wish. So thank you for listening to me if you did. And I hope you're doing well. And I hope that you have a fabulous evening, day, sleep, whatever it is, dinner,